Right, so we're rolling. So tell us your name and what you do.
So my name is Keith Downie and I am the North East of England reporter for Sky Sports News. So based in Newcastle, mainly covering Newcastle, but also to a slightly lesser extent at the moment, the likes of Middlesbrough and Sunderland as well. I also do some golf for Sky Sports and Sky Sports News.
And what makes your job interesting?
Well, I'm essentially talking about football for a living. So what everyone else is sort of doing in the pub on an evening or on a weekend, talking about football, I'm essentially doing that Monday to Friday and the weekends as well. Sitting chatting about football, tactics, transfers, managers getting sacked, players signing, all that sort of thing. So yeah, it's fun. You get to watch football and talk about football and get paid for it.
So we help kids think about what they're doing at school in terms of their subjects. What did you want to do when you were actually at school?
I wanted to do this.
Yep.
This is what I wanted to do. And, you know, if someone could have said to me aged 14, 15, where would you like to see yourself? I have to say this would probably have been up there with what I wanted to do. Initially, I wanted to be a writer for a newspaper because I thought the TV thing would have been too difficult. And I was a writer for a couple of local newspapers. Did a little bit for one of the national papers, the Scottish Sun. And then I managed to get my big break in TV. And I never thought I would. The reason I kind of thought I wouldn't get there is I thought it was too difficult to get into. But I just kept knocking at the door until an opportunity arose. And then I worked my way up through various TV companies. Rangers TV, Setanta Sports, STV in Scotland, to then get my opportunity at Sky Sports 10 years ago. And I've been at Sky Sports ever since, obviously based down in Newcastle.
Kind of double question here. So tell us a wee bit about what or who was the catalyst for you pursuing your career?
Well, I always had an obsession with football statistics. I used to watch matches on TV and get my dad to turn the commentary down, and I would sit there and commentate on the game, and then I would do an interview with him afterwards as if he was like the manager or one of the players from the game. So we used to role play. So I think my dad probably played a big part in it. Out with that, I think it was just like myself and my obsession with sport and football. And look, everyone wants to be a footballer, and I would have loved that more than anything, but I quickly realised I was an okay player, but I was never going to be good enough to make it. So by about the age of 10, I was like, I want to stay in sport and football in some capacity and try and get involved in doing this. And as such, I have to say it doesn't really feel like a normal job. So we are sat here speaking in Glasgow just now. I should be at Newcastle Arsenal at the moment, but I've had to take the day off because I'm up here in Glasgow today working the 2 League Cup semi-finals. So Celtic and Aberdeen today, Rangers Motherwell tomorrow, both at Hampden, and I'm doing that for another company on top of Sky Sports. So I try and keep my hand in with stuff going on in Scotland. And this is my weekend, this is my time off work. But yeah, I'm working both games, but at the same time it doesn't feel like work. So it is quite a nice work-life balance, and it's quite a sort of fun life to lead, really. Don't know if that answered your question.
So that's quite a big bit of dedication just to the love of the craft. And I guess what I was going to ask is what kind of skills, softer skills, meta skills as we call them, have you got to have to be really good at what you do?
I've never heard of meta skills before, but certainly if I think about the things that sort of I need to be good at, you need to be sociable, you need to be personable, you need to be able to speak to people from all walks of life. And okay, yes, I deal with footballers now, but the range of footballers and football managers you see are very diverse, from a lot of diverse backgrounds, from different countries, from different backgrounds, and you need to be able to speak to these people all on the one level. I think what's probably helped me as well is before I got into sport, I used to work in news. I used to work for a local newspaper called the Wishaw Press, then the Perthshire Advertiser, both in Scotland, and I did a lot of like really difficult stories, like, you know, assaults, murders, things like that, and you dealt with police, you dealt with people, all sorts of people, and I think that's helped with my move into sport because you get quite rounded and you're speaking to different sorts of people. So approachable, I think also just being polite and being interested and being inquisitive but not crossing the line too much. And I think just But what I'm doing today at the matches at Hampden, I'm standing up in a hospitality suite in front of a few thousand Celtic fans with a couple of former Celtic players. You need to be able to sort of read the room, understand your audience, and almost play a role to be part of their afternoon and their experience.
Yeah. What's one of the most unexpected things you've had to deal with or witnessed in your job?
I'm going to add one more thing that I've forgotten I should have said there. Also, the ability to work at any time. So my job in Newcastle is 24/7, and I have to jump if something happens. I know it sounds ridiculous saying that today when I'm up here when they're playing Arsenal. It's one of the biggest games of the season, and this is a bit of an unusual situation this weekend that I'm missing a game like that. I was hoping they were going to be away from home, but if Eddie Howe gets sacked tomorrow, I need to jump and be there. I can't not do that. So, I've missed some big family events. I've missed things because I've got a big story happening. So I need to be available, and I need to be very sort of open and free with my time. And I need to be accepting that I don't have a 9-to-5 job. It is a lifestyle, really, and that's been quite hard for myself at times, but more so from the family, because they are sometimes thinking, Keith, can you not just take today off? And I'm like, no, this is what I need to do. But then I'll randomly get Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with nothing to do. So you need to be very, very flexible.
The question, was, what's the most unexpected thing you've had to deal with or witnessed in your job?
Oh,
tell us.
Yeah. I've had some pretty bad abuse where it's led to I've had to have security at certain games with me, which hasn't been a nice experience. Particularly the Sunderland-Newcastle game in the FA Cup last season wasn't a nice experience for me. I had to get security in and out of the ground, so that wasn't nice. And then any big story that breaks, sometimes something's going to happen and you get a little bit of an inclination. Other times you don't. Something just lands in your lap and you have to be able to react like that. There's been so many stories over the years. It's really difficult for me to select one, but probably my time at STV when Rangers went into administration and then liquidation back in 2012, long time ago now, 12 years ago. But I was involved at the sharp end of that story and nobody saw that coming. And suddenly you went from plodding along, doing your job, to the next 6 months was just utter carnage. Story after story, newsline after newsline, and you were just on it non-stop. Very similar to when the Newcastle takeover went through 3 years ago. I was non-stop for about 3 months afterwards. Hardly saw my family, hardly saw my friends. But again, you do it for the love of the job.
Is there any one thing you wish people knew about your job that's maybe like a misconception, or people just think, that's an easy type of thing? Is there anything you wish people would know?
A couple of things. One, a lot of time goes into away from what you see on the screen. Lots of research, lots of messaging, lots of text. Sometimes I'm sat there on my phone like this and I'm with someone and they probably think I'm being rude, but I'm not. I'm doing a bit of work at the same time, and because you're accessible all the time with your mobile, it's a totally different job to what it was maybe 15, 20 years ago. And then the other one is, I think fans of all football clubs think that you've got an agenda, think that you support them. Really, once you're in this profession and you're doing it to the level that I am and a lot of my peers are, I grew up supporting Hearts. I'm not really a Hearts supporter now, It's you do it because it's your profession. You don't do it because you want a certain team to win or do better. And I get, as you mentioned earlier, I get quite a lot of stick from Sunderland fans because I report on Newcastle a lot more than Sunderland, and the two of them are great rivals. The reason for that is they're the bigger news story at the moment. They're in the Premier League, they were in the Champions League last season, cup final, trying to win trophies, have been taken over by a huge public investment firm in the shape of the Saudi PIF, where Sunderland have been in the Championship struggling. Now, Sunderland are doing better now. As we speak, they're at the top of the Championship, so I'm going to end up doing a lot more on them. But I think people think, I know fans think, because I've had these accusations thrown at me, that the reason you're reporting on Newcastle is either you support them or you like them better. No, it's neither. It's just that they're more newsworthy. And I think as you're a football fan, you can't see things from a neutral point of view. You can only see it through your own tinted glasses. But that is a problem that I think is never going to go away. And I think it's just the way football fans are. And over the years, I've just learned that you need to just manage the situation as best you can.
Just on social media, we've I think we've touched on the negative aspect of social media with fans and stuff. So what's the positive impact of social media been on your careers?
Well, the positive is you can break a story on the spot, whereas back in the day you'd have to wait until the next morning's newspapers, or you'd have to wait until the 6 o'clock news. And when I worked at STV, quite often we would hold a story till 6 o'clock. Now, at Sky Sports News, and all my colleagues that are former STV, if they have a story now, they just get it out straight away, because now every hour back then is now every minute. You know, a story doesn't hold for hours on end, and you need to just get it out straight away. So the immediacy of it has changed, and I certainly enjoy that. But it means that you can't switch off. It means that you're just constantly checking your phone and constantly. Difficult at the moment. I've got a 10-week-old baby, and times my phone is at the other side of the room, and I feel a little bit, oh God, I've not got my phone on me. It feels, if it's a strange experience, I have to say. I'm trying to get used to it, but certainly that I've enjoyed that, and also the interaction with, you know, people, football fans. Although I have had a lot of abuse, there's also a lot of really nice people out there with a lot of interesting things to say, and I've certainly learned a lot through social media as well. So if we could lessen the abuse and continue the positive interactions with people, then social media would be a really good place. But as we know, there's a lot of issues with it that go beyond what we are talking about now.
Just another 2 questions. When you're retiring, what would you like to be able to say about your career?
Oh, when I'm retired. I'm only 42. When I started covering the patch then in Newcastle, what I wanted was people to sort of recognise me as the person who was involved in sort of the big stories down there in the northeast, whether that be Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough, whatever. Now, it just so happens that Newcastle has been, over the decade I've worked there, the biggest story. And if I think back to myself when I got the job in 2013, I just kind of wanted to be, I didn't want to be famous, but I wanted to be known as, recognised as the person who was the first port of call to go to for Newcastle stories. And after the takeover and breaking the takeover news and everything that followed that, I think I've actually got there, and it feels quite good that I've achieved something. So I would like that, but there also comes a stage where you'd like to do other things as well. I don't want to just cover the one club for 20, 30 years. It'd be nice to branch out and do other things, but at this moment in time I'm still doing the North East patch, and thankfully Newcastle are doing well, Sunderland are doing well, Middlesbrough are doing okay, and thankfully because of that it makes it an interesting place to operate at the moment.
The last question, we've got Scottish Careers Week coming up next week. I'm asking, what would you say to young people who are trying to shape their future?
I would say follow your dreams. I would say don't let anyone tell you you cannot do anything. I'm doing a job now that I was told on multiple occasions you can't do, you won't be able to do. There's far too much competition. Everyone wants to do that. Everyone wants to be in sport. Everyone wants to be in football. But I knuckled down, kind of ignored that to a large extent, kept knocking at doors, and here I am doing this, and I've been doing it for a long time now. Also in my industry, you get a lot of knockbacks, and what I would say to people is, if you do get a knockback, don't let it get your head down, just go again. Keep putting your CV in, keep asking questions, keep offering your services, keep being interested, keep asking questions. If you want to be a journalist, make sure you ask questions. No question is a stupid question. That is how you learn. And just make sure you put yourself out there. Don't be knocked back easily. Like, don't be knocked back and think, like, that's it, there's no more opportunities for me. Just keep knocking at the door. And all the best and most respected journalists and TV reporters I know have had many a knockback before they've got to where they are. So just be brave. Don't let it get your head down. And keep trying. And always, if you want to be a journalist like myself, always, whenever you go on a job, whenever you speak to someone, always get a contact number, whether it's an ad on Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever. Always get some kind of contact with people and grow your network of contacts, and the rest of it should take care of itself from there.